Hey, EcoPsych EXP family! Welcome back to the channel where we blend the mysteries of the mind with the mysteries of, well, mysteries. Today we're delving into a classic that combines early 2000s nostalgia with a pixelated punch, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. That's right, the gang's going digital and we're tagging along to see just how this early foray into virtual reality can teach us a thing or two about ecological psychology. And yeah, we might have some laughs along the way. So if you're ready to solve some mysteries and level up your understanding of how we interact with our environments, both physical and digital, grab a Scooby snack and let's dive in. Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase is the fourth installment in the direct-to-video Scooby-Doo series, released in 2001. It's a mix of mystery and cyber adventure that throws the gang into a digital world. In Cyber Chase, Scooby and the gang are transported into a video game version of their world by a computer virus called the Phantom Virus. Trapped inside, they must navigate 10 levels, each filled with dangers and familiar villains from their past adventures. To escape, they need to defeat the Phantom Virus and find the game's final level, teaming up with digital doppelgangers of themselves along the way.
Great idea, Freddy!
Can someone help us?
Zoinks! You're me! And you're me!
Oh! You're the characters in Eric's video game. And you're from the real world. Jinkies! Did I really wear that years ago? That jacket with that skirt?
Nice ascot. Works for me.
Before we jump into the cyber world with the Mystery Inc. crew, let's take a step back and talk about what ecological psychology actually is. Because let's face it, most of us didn't grow up dreaming about studying the mind through the lens of environmental interaction. Unless you're like me, of course. So, what is ecological psychology? Well, it's a field of psychology that focuses on the relationship between people and their environments, how we perceive, interact with, and are influenced by the spaces around us. Unlike traditional psychology, which often focuses on internal mental processes, ecological psychology emphasizes the idea that our behavior is deeply connected to the environment. Think of it as a dance between the person and the environment, each one influencing and responding to the other in real time. This approach isn't just limited to physical environments either. With the rise of digital spaces, ecological psychology has found new relevance in understanding how we navigate and interact with virtual worlds. And that's where Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, my favorite Scooby-Doo film, comes in. This movie offers a perfect backdrop for us to explore how the principles of ecological psychology apply when the gang is thrust into a world that's entirely digital. So, buckle up as we go beyond the usual ghost-chasing antics and dive into the digital environment of Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. We're going to break down what the cyber adventure tells us about how our minds interact with virtual spaces and what that means for us as players, and maybe even as future game designers. Let's kick things off by dissecting the cyber world itself. The digital environment in Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase is segmented into various levels, each with its own challenges, settings, and rules. But despite these differences, they all share one thing in common. They're completely artificial.
Why, check it out! We're digital! Well, original.
We use the game to extrapolate 3D data into quantum particles. From there, it's child's play to reintegrate the molecular structure in virtual space.
Of course, it's so simple.
In ecological psychology, we talk about affordances, which are the opportunities for action that our environment offers. In the real world, a chair affords sitting, a ladder affords climbing, and so on. But in a digital world, the affordances are defined by the game's design. A glowing object might afford collecting or interaction, a platform might afford jumping, and an enemy, well, that probably affords running away if you're Shaggy or Scooby. What's fascinating is that while the environment is artificial, the way our brain interacts with it isn't. Just like in the physical world, we quickly adapt to the affordances of the cyber world. The gang picks up on these new affordances pretty fast. They have to if they want to survive the Phantom Virus and save the day. This adaptability highlights the flexibility of our cognitive systems. Even in an entirely digital environment, we engage with the world around us in a way that feels natural. This idea connects directly to the principle of direct perception in ecological psychology, which suggests that we don't need to rely on internal representations to understand our environment. We perceive it directly and act accordingly. Whether it's a dark and creepy mansion or a neon-lit cyberspace, the gang's minds are tuned into the affordances around them, ready to interact.
The Scooby game has 10 levels. You need to battle monsters or villains while trying to find a box of Scooby snacks on each level.
Oh boy, Scooby Wax.
Okay, Professor.
Imagine holding a key in your hand. The affordance here is clear. You know it can unlock something. Now imagine the same key in a video game. Even though it's just pixels on a screen, your brain recognizes the affordance almost instantly. You know it's important and you know it's going to unlock something vital in the game. That's the power of ecological psychology, our ability to perceive and act in both real and virtual environments seamlessly. Let's talk about presence. Presence is the psychological state of feeling there in a given environment, whether it's a real or virtual world. In Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, the gang is physically in the real world, but as they navigate the game, their sense of presence shifts into the digital landscape. This is where things get really interesting. The concept of presence is crucial in ecological psychology because it influences how we perceive and interact with our environment. In a highly immersive digital landscape like the cyber world, the gang begins to react to the threats and challenges as if they were real. They experience fear, excitement, and urgency just as they would in the physical world. This level of presence can be so intense that it tricks our brains into responding as though the virtual environment is real. In psychological terms, this is known as embodied presence, where our perception of being in a virtual environment is so strong that our bodies start to respond accordingly. Heart rates increase, adrenaline kicks in, and even though we know it's not real, our minds and bodies can't help but react as if it is. This embodied presence is a key reason why virtual reality can feel so immersive and why video games can be so engaging. We're not just passively watching, we're actively participating, with our perception and actions closely tied to the environment, whether that environment is made of brick and mortar or ones and zeros. This idea of presence is also crucial for understanding why VR and video games are such powerful tools for learning and behavior change. If we can create digital environments that evoke a strong sense of presence, we can potentially shape behavior in ways that are meaningful, whether that's learning new skills, overcoming fears, or in the case of Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, solving a mystery and saving the day. Now, let's talk problem solving. The Mystery Inc. gang is known for their detective skills, but what happens when the rules of the game change, literally? In the real world, the gang uses context clues, physical evidence, and their surroundings to solve their mysteries. But in the cyber world, they have to quickly adapt to a new set of rules. This is where the concept of direct perception and ecological psychology really shines. Instead of sitting back and analyzing every detail, the gang dives in, directly interacting with their environment to solve problems as they arise. Direct perception means that our minds are attuned to picking up the information we need from our environment to take action. This is why when the gang encounters a new challenge in the game, they don't spend too much time overthinking it. They see a platform, they jump, they see a door, they open it, they see a clue, they grab it. Their interaction with the digital world is immediate and intuitive, just like how we would interact with the physical world. This immediacy and problem solving is what makes games so engaging. We don't just watch, we participate, and that participation is rooted in our ability to directly perceive and interact with the environment. It's a feedback loop. See, act, see the result, act again. This dynamic interaction is at the heart of ecological psychology and is beautifully illustrated in the gang's continued problem-solving adventures within the cyber world. But here's the kicker. This kind of problem-solving isn't just about quick reflexes or fast thinking. It's about adapting to an environment that continuously presents new challenges. In ecological psychology, this is referred to as a situated cognition, where our thinking is directly tied to the context that we're in. The gang doesn't just carry out their usual detective work, they adapt to the specific affordances of the cyber world, using the tools and strategies available within that digital environment. In the same way, we adapt our strategies in real life based on the context, whether we're navigating a tricky conversation, solving a complex problem at work, or even playing a challenging video game. The key takeaway here is that problem solving is a dynamic, ongoing process that involves continuous interaction with our environment, rather than something that happens entirely in our heads. And that's a huge part of what makes video games and life so fun. Think about the last time you were stuck on a tough level in a game. You didn't just sit there and calculate every possible move. You experimented, adapted, and learned through direct interaction. Whether it was jumping at the right time, using a specific item, or exploiting a game mechanic, your brain was actively engaged in perceiving and acting on the environment presented to you. That's ecological psychology in action. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What does Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase tell us about the future of digital environments and how we interact with them? Well, this early 2000s gem gives us a glimpse into how immersive, interactive digital worlds were beginning to shape our understanding of presence and interaction. Fast forward to today, and we see that digital environments have only grown more complex and immersive. From VR and AR to massively multiplayer online games, the way we interact with these spaces has profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our relationship with technology. For instance, virtual reality allows us to experience presence in a way that traditional screens can't. The sense of being inside the environment is stronger, making the affordances of that space feel more immediate and real. This has huge implications for how we might use digital environments for everything from education to therapy to social interaction. From an ecological psychology perspective, this means that the principles we've discussed, affordances, direct perception, presence, will continue to be relevant, but they will also evolve as our digital environments become more sophisticated. The boundaries between the physical and digital worlds are blurring, and with it, our understanding of how we perceive and interact with these spaces. In the future, we might find ourselves navigating digital environments that are almost indistinguishable from the real world, and in these spaces, the lessons we've learned from ecological psychology and from Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase will be more important than ever. How we design these spaces, how we interact with them, and how they affect our behavior will shape the future of human-computer interaction. So whether you're designing the next big game or just playing it, remember that you're part of a larger story, a story about how humans and environments, physical or digital, are always intertwined. Now let's pivot to something a bit more sentimental, nostalgia. One of the reasons Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase resonates with so many people is its nostalgic value. It's a time capsule of early 2000s gaming culture, wrapped in the familiar, comforting blanket of Scooby-Doo. Nostalgia plays a powerful role in how we engage with media, especially digital environments. It creates an emotional connection that can make even the most basic game mechanics feel meaningful. In ecological psychology, this ties into the idea of familiarity. Environments that feel familiar can evoke strong emotional responses, making us more engaged and connected to the experience. This is why so many games and digital experiences tap into nostalgia. They're not just selling a game, they're selling a feeling, and that feeling is tied to how we perceive and interact with the environment. Nostalgia can make the affordances of a digital space feel more inviting and meaningful, even if the actual environment is simple or outdated by today's standards. In Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, the nostalgia comes from both the Scooby-Doo brand and the early 2000s gaming elements. For many viewers, it's not just a movie, it's a portal back to their childhoods, where they first experienced the thrill of solving a digital mystery. For me, it's definitely a portal back to early 2000s Blockbuster. This emotional connection enhances the sense of presence and makes the interactions within the digital environment feel more impactful. So the next time you fire up an old game or watch a nostalgic movie like Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, remember that you're not just engaging with the content, you're engaging with your past. And that connection can make the experience richer, more immersive, and more meaningful. It's a reminder that our interactions with digital environments are deeply personal, shaped by our memories, emotions, and the environments we've experienced before. So what's the big takeaway from Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase? Well, aside from the fact that we all wish we had a cool crew to solve mysteries with, the movie is a fun example of how ecological psychology can apply to digital environments. Whether we're navigating the real world or a virtual one, our brains are constantly interacting and interpreting our surroundings. Affordances, presence, problem solving, these are just some of the concepts that come to life in both physical and digital spaces. And as Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase shows us, even when the environment changes, the principles of how we perceive and interact with it remain surprisingly consistent. And hey, if Scooby and Shaggy can figure it out, so can we, right? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of EcoPsych EXP. If you enjoyed diving into the world of Scooby-Doo and want to see more pop culture breakdowns through the lens of ecological psychology, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment with what you'd like to see next. And remember, whether you're solving mysteries in real life or in the digital world, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious. Until next time, happy gaming and keep those Scooby snacks close.